Hello and welcome, viewers. I am Jason Arena with another episode of the Live for Life podcast. Today we have a special guest on the show, prolific writer and interventionist working to improve the lives of widows and a person with a beautiful heart and a very distinct sense of humor. I will say myself, me and Katie have been out a couple times for coffee, and she does have a pretty distinct sense of humor. So let me introduce Miss Katie Pettigrew. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let the viewers know who you are, what you do, and
all right. So my name's Katie Pettigrew, and I write the Foul Mouth Widow blog. So I write about being a widow. So I touch on grief and parenting. I have 2 young kids, and just the ebbs and flows of life throughout all that.
Yeah.
And then I also work with widows, and I help them kind of just gain clarity back for the kind of life that they want to live now and build up their confidence or claim their confidence for the first time to actually take those steps to live life now. On the other side,
be more. And then as everybody knows who's been following the podcast, I am also a widow. So this is how me and Katie became friends. It's funny because when you told me about I'm this foul mouth widow, and you became famous foul mouth widow. How did you come up with that name?
I love that you say I'm famous. Thank you. Foul mouth widow.
Well, it's a famous name.
Yes.
That we're going to make famous.
It's very catchy, so that helps. And I came up there. I was on the phone with my sister, actually. I think either I was on the phone with her or she was sitting with me when I came up with it. But I knew I would always start a blog.
Yep.
I was planning on doing that before my husband died.
Right.
And then after he died, I still wanted to do that. But it was going to kind of like change course.
You told me you're a writer, right? You love.
Yes,
you're
I've
not
always
a writer, but
I've always been
write. Yes.
I've always been writing.
Right.
And so I knew I would do that again. I hadn't written for a while, and I was like, I need to start a blog, just to get me back going. And then, when my husband died from an accident, so after that, I was like, I still want to get this going. So I did. And then I was like, what should I title it? And it was just this. It was 1 month after he died, and there's a lot going on.
It's a blur. I will tell you, for me, it was a blur at least 2 to 3 months after. You don't even know. It was so fun. It's so fuzzy. The memories, the days blur into each other. You don't sleep. You're not eating. Everything's off. Like this is my experience. I'm sure. Now Katie and I, as she just mentioned, she had a very different experience as far as how she lost her spouse. We both are at the end result. We don't have our spouses anymore, and we're raising our kids, and we're going through single parent life. But the circumstances leading to the departure was very, very different. Mine was my wife was sick for a while, and I was a caregiver. And Katie's husband just went to work, and he tragically fell through a roof, and he sustained injuries that ultimately cost him his life. So it was very different. It was a very different experience, and I'm sure everybody grieves differently. So even the situation. So, how did the blogs help you though? Like, because you said you started doing it a month after. So how was that a source of help for you?
So at first I started it just as, a therapeutic thing for myself because writing's always been my go-to, like, self-therapy. Yep. And so I started as that, and it was going to be like this story of me and Matt, my husband, and then it morphed into a lot more just because, as I went through life, my subject matter just changed a little bit, and it's still about widowhood, but it's morphed more into parenting and just navigating the waters, basically.
It's muddy waters.
But at the very beginning, it was just very, I'd throw everything down on the computer and I would just post it, and I wouldn't even, edit it much because I just wanted it to be really raw. And so Foul Mouth Widow kind of derived from that because there was just so much going on that was ridiculous, and I was swearing a lot.
Well, because emotional, because when you're speaking emotionally, and I'm the same way. Anybody that knows me, my social media team has done a great job of trying to coach me while I'm doing this podcast.
So with my writing, like at first I just did it, for myself. And then I started getting emails from other widows.
Yes.
So it became like a source of connection.
Mhm.
So, I'd say in like the first year, my writing was more about connecting with others. And now a lot of my writing is still just, for connection, in widow community and just like the grief community, even people who aren't widows, read my blog and can relate to it. And then I also, there's throwing a little bit of hope in there because, it can get really lonely and dark but there is, some light out there. So, it's good just to shine that a little bit, but in a very realistic way, not in like a, toxic positivity.
The way that I deal with the grief is you got to have your range of emotions, I think, on a daily basis. So you got to laugh, you got to cry, you got to, it makes you appreciate things a little better. You know what I mean? So you use your, we talked about your very distinct sense of humor to help people process their grief. So I think that's I do the same thing. I try to do the same thing. Right? You know me, I'm trying to make people laugh all the time. Kind of,
Right.
How have people reacted to this? Like, it's especially like me. Like, okay, so for me, like a lot of the stuff that I do, I'm very on social media. I'm kind of like politically charged a little bit. Well, I've seen in my personal relationships people that I not like close personal relationships, but people who were like kind of like on the fringe socially have gone off the radar socially. Has that happened to you because of your opinions and your distinct sense of humor and your opinions and your views on things? Has that happened to you?
Like have people shied away from me?
Yeah. Because of your opinions and your views and how you deal with grief.
How I deal with it. So for people shying away at the beginning, there was like that bit of a shock value.
Yeah.
And it was very few comments I would get like negative feedback. It was mostly more thankful that I'm honest and raw, and so continuing to be that way and kind of never faltering from that has just given people the ability to open up and express themselves more. Yes. So my Instagram is probably the most active, where I get messages and comments, and before that through email. And so it's mostly all glad that I say things the way that I do, because everything I create is very natural. Like the way I write is natural. I write how I talk. When I make a post or do anything like that, it's all from a very honest and truthful viewpoint. And so when you're that way, it helps other people also like realize, okay, I'm not alone. Like I don't have to hide this. It's not shameful. And I never even really thought that I was funny until, I still like I think I'm funny, but like I don't like consider myself, like if I were to write my descriptions, I wouldn't say funny. But another widow was doing a podcast, and she like mentioned my account and said that she was like, she's so funny. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's just kind of how I talk. So like in conversation is how I'll write. And then I don't know, it just has connected with people in a helpful way. And through that is how I created my group on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because, there were, through the emails and the messages, I was like, okay, we need like another group. There are so many groups and support groups and everything, but I made one for women because we also deal with, we're widows, but even though you're a widow, you're so many other things as well. And a lot of women are dealing with what I call like complex or layered, complicated grief. So we also talk about the layers of that, just like things that were unresolved in your marriage. And so
do you notice because I'm sure you speak to people who have suffered a loss where their marriage was great. And then I'm sure you're dealing with people who have suffered a loss and their marriage wasn't so great.
Right.
Do you see the difference in the way that they're expressing their grief, whether they had a great marriage or not a great marriage?
Not really. Like, I think, they may go through it at certain patterns may hit at different times, but that's why it's one thing that I have in like my group description, like whether you're married to like Prince Charming or like Lucifer, you know, and everything in between.
Yeah.
We all grieve. Like we all
it's still somebody that
lost
you love.
our partner.
I mean, obviously, if you agree to marry somebody, you obviously love them at some point in your life. I don't care how the marriage ended or where it went from the day that you guys got married. The day that you agreed to marry this person, you obviously love that person.
Everyone grieves. And then the way you show your grief may be different. But I will say, you know, I also have worked with widows who were in abusive relationships and it's complicated for them because people just expect them to not grieve because, well, you know, now their dad's like, you don't even have to worry about it. But there's still love there, at least on one, you know. At
some point, there was love there, so that hurts you at some point.
Right. And then comments like that hurt as well, and then it makes you not want to talk about it. So
it invalidates your feelings. So these people getting gaslit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right. So it's like, and the sad part about it, it's usually by people that you are closest to.
Right.
And that's where the hurt comes because it's like, oh man, like what? Like, I'm at my worst right now. Like, I'm in the worst my mind's at the worst that it's ever been in my whole life. And now you're coming at me with this? Like, what?
Right.
Like, come on, dude. Like, so.
Yeah. So it's nice to just have like that space. Like we have at least one virtual get together within my group and we could talk about whatever. And, you know, everyone's different, but we all have that widowhood bond, but, which just kind of changes you in a way to like a very, not everyone, but in most cases it changes you in a way of not being so judgmental, and
it puts a little perspective on things. What's really important in life. Like that's why I've decided to do what I'm doing. Like this is not a smart financial decision to take this on, to do this, to start this. It's not. I could go get a job and be making really good money around here with the skills that I have. But that's not where I think I'll be happy.
Right.
And I need to be happy. Like the most important thing that I think when you're going through something like this is you need to be happy so you can support your family. Because your kids are still there. Your mortgage is still there. Your bills are still there. Now, I've been fortunate where I've had I've been financially okay to be able to take this on and take the time out of my life to do this and be able to roll. Remember we were talking about the role reversal. Well, Marilyn took care of the kids. Well, when Marilyn passed away, now I had to do that. She paid all the bills. I used to just hand her my paycheck. And I was the guy who just went to work and she paid all the bills. She took care of everything. She went grocery shopping. She did everything. I just went to work. I came home and we had fun. Honestly, you dedicated a lot of your time to helping others, and it's helps us grieve. I mean, I'm trying to find a reason why this is happening.
Right.
And my therapist keeps telling me you won't find one.
Right. Yeah. Well, I do talk a lot about like radical acceptance and just you know, it happened and you can't change it, and in my belief, like once you are able to get to that point, then, you know, your view changes a little bit. But everyone, again, like goes through it at different times. It looks different for everyone. And like a lot of what you were just talking about, that spending time with your kids and everything, that burden for many mothers who, like I was a stay-at-home mom, and, you know, not a lot, I'd say about 50-50 in my group. Many of them were, you know, stay-at-home moms, and some of them had their thriving careers. And the ones with children, you know, they have that to juggle now because now they're doing both. And, you know, not everyone is able to maintain the life that they had before, you know, their spouse died.
I know, and that's
and so
well, that's what and again, that's why when I started the foundation, it was not just for people who were dealing with metastatic breast cancer. Then currently, it's I want to support families too that are like my family. Like we're still dealing with it because we'll deal with it forever because Marilyn's not here anymore. Right. And with that comes there's still pay. You still have expenses. I mean, therapy's expensive.
Yes.
Therapy, people don't even think about that. And I've mentioned it on previous podcasts where I have $30 a week times 4.
Yeah.
Skylar, Cameron, Zoe, and me go to therapy, $30 a week, or $480 a month until I meet my next amount out of pocket. You know what I mean? So it's like that's an expense that I could help people pay because therapy is necessary.
And 30 is low.
30 is.
I'm
low.
not like discrediting you. I'm just saying for a lot of people that's low. Like for me, it was 75 a week to go. For my kids, it wasn't that much at all. But like for me, like my insurance doesn't cover any of that. So
I was fortunate. Marilyn had a great job at Lowe's. Marilyn was a analyst at Lowe's. She worked at the corporate office. So we had Lowe's. I still have Lowe's benefits. They gave me the option to continue on with the coverage, and like you said, $30 is low. So for most people, it could be 50, 60, 75.
Right.
If you had to pay $75 for you and your 2 kids, that's $215 a week. That's $860.
And I mean, it can be like $150 for, because like my therapist even gave me like a sliding scale because she like heard my story and she was just like, girl, like we're going to make it so that you can come as often as you need to.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so
that therapy, and then but honestly, people who can't afford therapy, they go to support groups like the one that you have. So you understood that people can't afford therapy.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to afford therapy forever. I'm just doing it. I'm trying to get me and my kids as far through this with some therapy as I possibly can. I can't afford this forever. Right. You know what I mean? Like nobody can. Who can afford an extra $500 payment a month?
Right. I know.
You know what I mean? Like especially a widow who doesn't have who lost a source of income.
Right.
You know, like that's the biggest thing that people don't realize. A lot of people don't even take into account. Like Marilyn had a great job. Your husband had a great job. All of a sudden that income's gone like that. Overnight it's gone.
Right.
So you have to adjust your life. And that could mean taking on a second job. That could mean people do whatever they got to do to make things happen. You know what I mean? And it's sad that a lot of people struggle. And one thing that I'm going to try to help people with is families who were dealing with the same thing that I've dealt with. This is just on a very personal level.
Right.
That's why I've chosen my path and why you chose your path. You understood that women are going to struggle. And you're trying to help them out. And it's great. You're using your life experience to improve other people's life.
That's why there's, the power of technology. There's the good and the bad with it. But like I started looking on Facebook for support groups before my husband's funeral because I was just like, I do not know even like what to say. So I found those, and then I was a lurker. And then in my lurking, I started talking a little bit, but then you would notice, that's when I started noticing women wanting to say something, either about their marriage or just something that wasn't like my spouse was the greatest. Yeah, just like
this is a mixed male, female.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
And just so like if a woman were to express, not the cherry, whatever, sugar-coated, my spouse has died and they were the greatest person in the entire world. We never had any problems. Everything was roses and butterflies at all times. And now they're dead. Like if there was any kind of stray from that, like it would just go like mute on her. And then, so I was like, okay, so it's kind of why, like in my group, there's women who did have, those fairy tale marriages. I call them fairy tales just to be relatable. But, and then there's the ones that had like, a little bit more of a gritty side to their marriage. And we all just come together. Right. So, and no one's grief is, more or less than the others.
So basically what I just got from what you just said was you joined a support group that was mixed. There was males and
there's
females.
A lot of them.
And then you were just there, and you said that at first you were lurking. Yeah. So you weren't really saying much. You were just reading. You were just looking. You were just there just as like a spectator to start. You wanted to see what the group was all about. And then you noticed that there was women that were voicing the way that they saw their marriage and how they were grieving. And if they were going against the whole, my husband was the greatest man to ever live, and I'm
Right.
so shattered that he's gone,
Mhm.
even if they had an abusive marriage or they had not such a great marriage, they were
Right.
just looking for support. They weren't receiving the same support as the fairy tale
Right.
marriages. Okay, so
Right.
then that's when you decided to
Mhm.
start your own thing.
Yes.
And you made it more of a, listen, I understand
all
all
are
grief.
here. Yeah.
I don't care how your marriage was.
Mhm.
Everybody has the right to grieve.
Right.
And you should be able to speak freely on how you're feeling.
Right.
Okay. So that's awesome then. That's called,
Mhm.
that's like the definition of seeing a problem
Right.
and taking action to make it better for
Right.
people who weren't getting the support that they were looking for.
Right.
Okay.
That's why, like, most of the people who follow me are widows, but there's a lot of people who aren't, but they can relate to that aspect of what I write and say. So, it's a good hybrid, but my foundation is my WIDS.
What are your plans moving forward? What do you want to, like, what is your ultimate goals here with this blog? And
so I will be doing more like longer form writing. So that'll be happening in the nearer future, but I am looking into things to do with my son because there's so many things for, like, there's those support groups and everything for adults if you can find them. And then there's little programs for kids here and there. And
the Rainbow Kids is great, but they lost it because of COVID.
Well, they still have it,
but
they just can't. Not everyone can participate because it's 2 women running it, so they can only be in so many places at once.
Yeah,
and
they had to pull it out of Rocket River.
Yeah,
they took it out of Rocket River. Well, maybe it's still there, but there's Zoe and
this year, so they have to kind of shift the schools to this semester it wasn't at our kids' school, but it was at a different one.
because there's only 2 women, right? Yeah,
and only one woman does Mooresville, and then one does like the Statesville area.
What do you have to do to do that?
What do you have to have like a master's in like social work.
That's why they can't find people who have masters to do that job.
Well, I didn't ask them all that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just know that they both have master's degrees in social work and things. So
that'd be a great thing to do, like to talk. But I don't know, like honestly, it's just sitting around and just being able to talk freely and not be free of judgment is what's really relieving.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I feel like the most relief comes from my therapy is I can feel like I can say whatever I want.
Right.
And I'm not going to get like, I'm not going to get gaslit, or I'm not going to,
or like think you had a conversation with someone and then they like send you this book in the mail about like how to achieve Zen like a week after your husband died. Like that may or may not have happened to me. And it was just like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Well, and like in those moments, it's like, that's who would be laughing with me about this right now. So it's like, you just definitely made the whole situation worse. Thank you so much. The
hardest part is like, I think the hardest part for me is like, it affects your everyday life.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, it affects my kids' everyday life. It affects me and my kids' everyday life is affected. Everybody else has just lost somebody. You know what I mean? It was just a loss for them. And then we've had losses like that too. Like you've had people who have passed away who was somebody's husband or wife, and they weren't your husband or wife. It still affected you, but it didn't affect you the way this did because it flips your fucking life upside down.
Right.
You're spinning on your head like you're breakdancing in the 80s. Like literally the whole time. And there's like no, and for the first, I don't know, for me it was 3 to 4 months. I was spinning so fast on my head that you couldn't even, I couldn't even know which way was up, down, left, right. You know what I mean? Like, so it's slowed down now. It's like a slow spin, but it's still spinning because it's different.
Yeah, my husband died in October, so we went right in, a week after his funeral was my son's 5th birthday. So we went right into the birthday and then Halloween and then the holidays. And then, so all of that just happened at once. And then it really wasn't until those all ended when like that first year, I just wanted to make it so that like extra grand, So like I was always just focusing on making the kids happy, make the kids happy, make the kids happy. And then
What have you
And
been
then when
doing?
that was over, it was
Now,
like,
what do you do? Like me, like I've been working out. I spend a lot of time in my garage. I spend a lot of time just focusing on keeping myself at the point where I can support others in a positive way.
right.
What do you do to keep that mindset? Like, what do you like me? For me, it's been like the physical release. Like I need that's what like I work out because there's no better feeling for me
Right.
than like the 2 hours after I'm done.
So, mine, it kind of changes a lot. So the first year I was in therapy, I started once a week, and then I moved to like every other week, and then once a month, and now I go probably every other month. And at first I did kickboxing up until COVID, and then and that was great.
Yeah.
And then and my kids did I think they did, well, my older one did Muay Thai. And then when COVID started, I did home workouts with like a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And then for physical stuff, I haven't, like, now I just do it as I want to, and I focus more on like mindset stuff.
It doesn't have to be that's just
right.
For me that works.
Yeah.
A lot of people is they go and they sit in the sauna for a half hour.
Yeah.
A lot of people read. A lot of people find comfort in sitting there. Like Marilyn, she would find comfort in her zen. Was on a beach with the water just coming up to your feet, the sun in her face, reading a book.
Yeah,
Maryland Paradise Forever is that setting right there.
I do more, I don't know if it's really meditation, but I do more like, I guess it is.
Yeah.
Like I do it in my workshops, but I do just kind of like, mindset exercises.
Yes.
Just like lifting the weight off you and like physically doing it, and just stretches and things like that, just to keep like your blood flowing through your body. And now I listen to audios when I go to bed, but like I listen to like soothing stuff when I sleep. One thing
that works for me, my therapist taught me a little trick. When you're having like, and it actually worked for me in Disney. I had like a Disney Springs. I was actually at dinner at the T-Rex restaurant. Me, my mother, her friend Zoe, Skylar Cameron, and one of my mom's friend's granddaughter was there. We were all just having dinner, and I got, we were talking about earlier the grief, right? We're sitting there. Well, I got hit by like a tsunami wave. Right in the middle of dinner. Like I was like, I gotta go outside. Yeah. And I just walked outside, and I used this method that she taught me. The see, touch, smell, and hear. Yeah. So like you look at something that you can see, something that you can hear, something that you can touch, and something that you can smell.
Yes. My kids are taught that.
Yeah, and it works. It works. It refocuses your mind. The other one is that breathing. If you can like, it was like breathe in for like, what is it, 3 seconds, hold it for 7 seconds, release 3 seconds. Isn't that 3? It was like 4, 6, 4, or 3, 7, 3, or like you do like 4 or 5 of those. 3, 7, 3, or something along. Yeah, it's somewhere around those lines. Like I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do 3, 7, 3. Works that's what works for me. Breathing.
Yeah. Too. Well, I always just say like whatever's most comfortable for your lungs.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like
you want to be like.
You don't want to.
That's what works for me. Yeah. Like it could be like I would recommend. I learned that by I had a watch. I had that. I had one. I had a Fitbit. Okay. But they just keep breaking, so I don't buy them anymore. But the Fitbit had a breathing. Okay. To slow your heartbeat down. Like if you wanted to rest, you wanted to go to sleep, they had it, and it would buzz when you breathe in, buzz when you exhale, buzz, breathe in again. It would like vibrate. And it taught me how to breathe to like lower my heart rate. It makes you rest. You know what I mean? It's like get you in a rest mode. So that's what taught me. There was that stupid watch I had.
I do more visualizations. I guess that's a better word than meditation. And I started learning how to use visualizations when I was pregnant with my first child, because I had these high hopes of like this natural birth and like everything was going to be smooth sailing and no drugs, like all that stuff. And then it ended up being like a 25-hour labor that ended with a C-section, but everyone was healthy and it was fine. But those visualizations still helped because it was like I remained calm throughout it all. And I don't have any like negative thoughts at all when I think back to it. But since I already had that in my like toolbox or whatever you would say, I used that. I think it was around like month between like 3 and 6 when like I was really just like, I was in bed a lot, and like my kids once they went back to school, like I just wasn't doing much. And then like I use the terms like earthquake, tornado, tsunami. Like it's just like hits you. And then like you feel like you're under like all that debris, like under all those bricks. And then I started using this method that I call, it's like my signature method in my workshops, like lifting bricks. And then I would visualize like the bricks coming off of wherever I was feeling the most pressure. So for me, it was always like my chest. So I would like pull the bricks off my chest and like set them down. And then it would just like keep going along my body until I could like stand again. And I would do those motions when I like would get into that state, and it really helped me. And then I'd just like get up and like splash water in my face and drink coffee. And now, like, since that was 3 years ago, I like you said, when it just like hits you, like for you, like the smell, see, feel thing helps you. And for me, I just go into my mind and I can do the lifting bricks visualization without having to like be standing there and like look like I'm taking bricks off of my body, but I can just see it in my head, and then it calms me down.
It's just the way that you've devised to cope with the wave hitting you. Like me, it's the see, that 4 senses, realize where you are. Put yourself back on the earth, because right now you're not here. You're somewhere else. You're going down. You're me, I call it spiraling. That's what when Marilyn had postpartum. They used to call that when she had those like irrational thoughts. It was called spiraling. Well, that's what I call my. I relate that to when I'm going. When the wave hits, the aftermath. I got to get out of it. And the way that I get out of it is a lot of the times breathing. Sometimes it's just refocusing on something. Putting like sports is a good thing for me because it distracts me. I'm 100% interested in sports. So if I'm freaking out or I'm losing my mind, and I just like put SportsCenter on. And then a sports highlight comes up and someone does a good dunk or someone does a good play. And I'm like, oh damn, that was a nice play, and it gets me out of it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I use things like that I can, that are my comfort zone. Like my comfort zone is sports. My comfort zone is my garage. My comfort zone is at the YMCA swimming in the pool. Like that's where I go. When like some mornings I wake up and I'm like, damn, I gotta go to the YMCA. I'm gonna lose my mind today. If I don't go to the YMCA right now and swim and go in the sauna and go in the steam room, I'm not going to have a good day. You know what I mean? And that's when I go in the morning early is when I wake up and I'm like, if I don't go, but you have to be self-aware of where your mind's at. And that takes a long time. Like you have to explain to people like, listen, some days are better than others. And, it's a daily struggle. You never know where your mind's going to be at sometimes. But to have these tools to use that we've just explained, it's helpful. It's helpful to me. I know it's helpful to you. To have something, and there's no shame in asking for help too when you're going through something like that. Sometimes you can't do it yourself. You need a partner that you can call. Hey. When I'm going through it, I need to call you and just you just need to tell me everything's going to be okay. Sometimes people just need to hear from somebody who they trust. Hey, you're here, you're doing it, you're still going, keep going. Like I have a friend of mine on Facebook who I used to work with at a nightclub. This girl is like one of the toughest girls physically I've ever met in my life. I wouldn't want to fight her.
Mhm.
Honestly, she's tough. And I feel so bad. Her daughter is sick. She has a young child, and
Mhm.
she's going through it. She's battling, and she's just put a message up on Facebook the other day, like, baby was up crying all night. I don't know, and she's a caregiver
Mhm.
for her child, and I just left her a message saying, being a caregiver for somebody is a hard job, but being a caregiver for somebody that you love
Mhm.
is even worse. Like, it's
Sure.
really hard to stand there and not. It's a like I just told her, and she knows this, but sometimes you just need to be reminded.
Yeah.
It's the helplessness. That's the feeling that is making you feel this way.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
don't know how to fix this.
Mhm.
You feel helpless. It's what the last thing you think about before you go to sleep. It's the first thing you think about when you wake up. It wakes you up at night.
Yeah.
It's there all the time, and there's nothing you can do. It's just a helpless feeling. What is the best way for people to get a hold of you? What is the best way for them to do this?
I'd say I'm most responsible on my Instagram. So at Foul-Mouthed Widow.
Okay.
FOULMOUTHED Widow. Instagram is where I am just most active, but also on Facebook by the same name.
Yep.
That's where my group is. It's also everything that I put on Facebook, except for the reels, they bleed onto Facebook. And then I do have a TikTok. I am not active on it.
Okay.
But there's like a few videos in there, but I'm more of just like I'm a lurker.
I think you would. I know you've been censored in the past on TikTok.
I haven't. It really turned me off. It was a really funny video.
Listen. You know how many times I've been banned from TikTok? Listen, I'm
like, my humor does not belong here. I guess.
When I go on TikTok Live, I'm not even lying. When I go on TikTok Live now, I told you I use this to vent.
Mm-hmm.
And people choose to come and watch my live.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch my live. You know how many times people will come onto my live and I say something that they don't agree with and they report me and my live gets shut down? It's happened 5 or 6 times in one night.
Yeah.
Now, I appeal and I always win the appeal because I don't say anything wrong. I'm just voicing my opinion.
Right.
And I feel like I have the right to say my opinion on my TikTok Live. You don't have to watch my live.
Right.
You can scroll to the next one.
Exit out.
You can block me. You never have to watch me again. I don't care. I'm not on there to make you mad.
Right.
I'm on there to talk to people who agree with what my opinion is. I'm not there for trolls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're there. You're online. I'm sure you've gotten some troll-like responses.
I have people who are mad at me for my group only being women, and but I tell them groups that are available for men and for women, and I still will talk with them if they message me, but as of
people
now,
like
I am still keeping it women.
You're never going to make people that are saying that happy ever.
Right. And I get there is a need for, males to have those support, but those are out there. I don't know them off the top of my head, but it's because of everything that we cover in mine. That's why, women aren't going to open up about stuff like that if there's
and you understand that.
Yeah.
And you can honestly just say to the person, hey, I've been to groups where it's males and females. This group is specifically for females who do not feel comfortable with males and females. They feel more comfortable talking to a group of females.
Right.
I'm not going to ask them to not be comfortable. This is what I'm sorry, but I'll still talk to you specifically, but you're not going to be involved in my group because I created this specifically for women who don't feel comfortable talking to males too. So, I mean, we've talked about this earlier. Yeah. This is your specific reason for making this group is because you noticed the problem.
Right.
So, I mean, for somebody to come at you like that, listen, trolls are everywhere. I've had people come onto my...
I've had trolls my whole life.
I've had people come onto my TikTok and tell me that they were happy that Marilyn died. It made their day. So there's people who will say anything to anybody just to try to make them as miserable as they are. So I mean, it's just that's what I take that when people say stuff like that to me. I honestly respond to I I respond with, does your mother know that you make comments like that to others? Would she be proud of you if she saw this? And that's all I say to them.
Yeah.
And I throw it back in their face, like,
Mm-hmm.
who are you to say that to me?
Right.
You don't agree with how I feel about anything, but you're happy that my wife died now,
right?
Because you don't agree with a social topic,
right? Like you're a.
Where are you going in life? You know what I mean? So IG's the #1 spot to get the foul mouth widow.
Yeah, and my blog is by the same name.
Yeah.
So you can always read my writing there.
Honestly,
but the link to that is also on my Instagram.
Anyone who's listening and subscribing to my page, I thank you for coming. And yes. I would recommend that if you are a woman that is experiencing any kind of difficulties with things that we've been talking about, I would recommend reaching out to Katie. She will offer you her assistance if she can. Yes. Like she said, she's not a therapist. She's not a licensed therapist of any kind. She just has a lot of life experience. Right. And she's trying to use that to help others the same way that I am. Thank you. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you. If not, please like and subscribe to the podcast. It's all to benefit the Marilyn Arena Foundation, which is created to benefit metastatic breast cancer patients. So I'm going to sign off now, and I'll be checking back in. Be looking out for the next podcast, which is, like I said, it's going to be about the struggles of life, and how do we deal with this, and what can we do to make it a little better. All right, so be checking back in soon. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.